the Lantern Man of Hollowmere. Every Halloween, Hollowmere forgets to sleep. The village, cradled in the claw of a dense black forest, seems to breathe differently on that cursed night. The fog doesn't rise, it crawls. The wind doesn't howl, it whispers names. Old names, dead names. Children are kept indoors after dusk. Windows are bolted shut, and every hearth burns salt-dusted firewood. The scent of sage and ash becomes the perfume of safety. Because of him, the Lantern Man. It begins, as always, with the light. Cordelia Croft didn't believe the stories. She had grown up in Hollowmere but spent her 20s in the city, laughing off tales of spirits and vengeful men with lanterns for heads. When her father died that October, she returned to close the house and finalize the estate. She thought she'd be gone in a week. She hadn't expected the town to be so changed, and yet unchanged. No new buildings, no street lamps, no internet, and certainly no trick-or-treaters. "People don't celebrate Halloween here," said Mr. Whitlow, the hunched, glassy-eyed clerk at the general store. "We endure it." She smiled politely and bought her groceries. That evening, she found a hand-drawn map in her father's study, labeled in ink so dark it looked like dried blood. Paths to avoid on Halloween. Every street east of the old cemetery was scratched through violently. A scrawled warning underneath read, "If you see the light, do not follow it. If it follows you, do not run. If it speaks, pray it forgets your name." She rolled her eyes. "Dad, you were always dramatic." October 31st came quickly, heavy with grey skies. The entire village seemed to hold its breath. Shops closed by 3. The church bells rang out 7 solemn chimes at 5 o'clock. Cordelia had never figured out why the hour and bells never matched. By 6, the town was a ghost. Her father's house creaked under the weight of the coming night. The fireplace was cold, and Cordelia couldn't find any matches. She lit a scented candle instead, harvest pumpkin, and sat by the window with a glass of red wine. That's when she saw it, a flickering light in the woods across the lane. It swayed gently, unnaturally, too high to be someone carrying a lantern by hand. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Then it disappeared. She blinked, rubbed her eyes. Just a trick of the fog. But when she looked again, it was closer. The knocking started at exactly 8:06 p.m. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the front door. She wasn't expecting anyone. She peered through the peephole. Nothing. No footsteps, no figures, just swirling fog and the faint smell of burning pine. Then the light appeared again, this time at the edge of her yard. A deep clang echoed in the distance, like a rusted bell swinging once. The wind died completely. Cordelia's phone buzzed. It was an unknown number, The message read, "Why did you come back?" She dropped the phone. Outside, the lantern light flared brighter, illuminating the silhouette of a tall man. He wore a brimmed hat and a long coat, both ragged and soaked in shadows. His face was not a face at all, but a lantern, filled with swirling smoke and a single floating flame. Inside the glass, something shifted. Eyes. The lantern man did not walk. He glided. As Cordelia watched in paralyzed horror, he crossed the yard without moving his feet. The fog parted for him, like it feared him more than she did. She backed away from the window and locked the door. Clang. She turned. The back door now. Clang. The window in the kitchen. Clang. The attic. The flame was inside now, flickering behind the stained glass of the hallway lamp. She ran upstairs and slammed the bedroom door. Then, silence. Only her breath, loud and sharp. Her phone buzzed again. "Do you remember what your father did?" She didn't, not really. Her father never spoke of the Halloween when Cordelia was 3, only that it was the night her mother disappeared. She always assumed it was an accident, a fall in the woods, or maybe she ran off. The town never talked about it, as if she'd never existed. In her father's bedroom closet, behind a false panel, she found a box. Inside, an old oil lantern, blackened and broken, a bundle of gray hair tied with red ribbon, a child's shoe, and a note. "He only comes for those with debts unpaid." There was a photograph, too, of her father and a group of men holding torches in the woods. One of them was kneeling before a tree, blindfolded. Her mother. Cordelia's blood ran cold. They had given her to him. The hallway light dimmed. The flame was outside the bedroom now. She heard breathing, wet, rattling, unnatural. The doorknob began to turn. In desperation, she grabbed the old lantern and struck a match. It ignited with a gust of windless fire, blue and hungry. Shadows hissed and retreated. For a moment, she felt powerful. The door stopped moving. Then a voice came through the wood, deep, molten, ancient. "Return what was taken." She held the lantern tighter. "I don't know what you mean." The flame inside the hallway lantern flared blood red. Suddenly, her body lurched on its own, arms moving, feet dragging. The lantern man was pulling her. Cordelia fought against the invisible force, screaming, kicking, until she fell down the stairs, clutching the old lantern. It shattered, but the fire didn't go out. It spread in a circle around her, sealing her in a ring of ghostly blue flame. The lantern man stood in the doorway now. The fog coiled around his legs like dogs. He stepped into the fire and screamed. 1,000 voices cried out in pain through that scream. Women, children, men, layers of agony folded into a single sound. The lantern that was his face cracked, and Cordelia saw something inside. A face, her mother's, and her father's, and dozens more. He was the debt, the punishment, the vessel. "Return them," he whispered, voice now a whisper made of bone and ash. Cordelia reached into the broken lantern at her feet and lifted the bundle of grey hair. The flame flared higher. Names poured from the lantern man's mouth, and as each name was spoken, a soul lifted from his body, rising through the ceiling like smoke escaping a chimney. One by one, they fled, until only he remained, a figure in rags, a man with no face. He looked at Cordelia, not in rage, but in relief. He bowed his head and vanished. The next morning, the fog lifted. The sky broke into pale blue. For the first time in decades, Hollowmere saw sunlight on November 1st. Cordelia left the house, clutching the scorched lantern. In the yard stood Mr. Whitlow and a few others, villagers she recognized but had never truly seen. They nodded solemnly. "You freed them," Whitlow said. Cordelia asked, "What now?" He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Now we bury the past, and we never light another lantern on Halloween again." But the forest does not forget, and deep within the woods, on a crooked branch above a bed of black leaves, a single lantern still hangs. Its flame waits, and someday it will burn again.